Hi, team. Welcome to the Escape Podcast for Star Wars The Old Republic. Coming up, we talk about the patch 5.1 that was released today and all of the gearing changes that are going to go in. We'll also talk a little bit about some of the news, especially news about what's going to be happening in the dev stream, and a little bit of Guild and Conquest news for AIE Guild. Our broadcast astromech today is EPC 179. Who apparently would rather kiss a Wookiee than ride in this escape pod, but that's just too bad. With me, as always, is Seema. Hi, Seema. How's it going?
Hello. It's going pretty well. This week in SWTOR, I would say mostly what I did. It actually hasn't been that long since we talked about what we were doing in SWTOR because it was only last Thursday, and tonight
That's
is
right.
Tuesday. Um, but I remember saying that I was going for 3 characters in Conquest, and I did get all 3 of them done. Actually, very easily too. And it was fun. I did mostly the heroics, and sometimes I just have a good time with doing the same thing on different characters and just kind of fine tuning. Like now I know which 5 I want to do on Narshada on which characters because it makes a difference if you stealth or not for some of them.
Mm-hmm.
And where I look for the clickables and where I look for the groups and to do the minimal amount of effort. Yeah. And I worked a little bit on leveling my armor mech because he's another character that I'm trying to get to 66. And then just reading Dev Tracker and trying to figure out the new gearing changes, which I think we have kind of a handle on, and having some fun clicking on the command crates because just doing Conquest, you end up getting command crates, on all your characters that you're participating in basically because there's an overlap between the activities, which is good. So yeah, that's been a good week for me. We had a lot of snow, so today was a snowed in day, which I always am glad that I'm not out of coffee for.
Right. I, I thought you were talking about Knights of the Fallen Empire there for a second, but yes, no, the brewed beverage. I
The brewed
also
beverage
think
because yeah, whether if I don't have coffee in the morning, that does kind of affect my day. I'm a coffee person. I don't drink a lot of it, but I really, really savor it.
I am up to a cup. I think like today, I think I had 3 cups of coffee because I had one at work, one in the morning before work, one at work, and one. Well, I was a little tired, so one before we started mandatory fun night tonight. But
Yeah.
I have the AeroPress that I got
Hmm.
recently, and I've been making some good coffee with that, so I've been drinking more of it than usual.
Yeah. I've
But
been using that
yeah,
AeroPress for a long time now.
yeah, that's a good, cool device.
You can make a nice, strong cup of coffee in there. I really like it.
I have also been using my coffee making skills to continue to play Star Wars. I don't know what kind of segue that was. But I did not make my command target, my conquest target last week. Part of the reason was I was out of town half the week, and then when I got back, I was behind on a bunch of other stuff. I did get close though, because I was doing some GSF on my main character again, and GSF I still like it. I'm getting good returns on investment off of GSF, and I did. Because we were chatting, so we were chatting about what was going on with our ops team and who was in and who was out. So we just me, you, and Apples were off on the side the other night, and I did on the side. I did Planetary Heroic, which I don't usually do, but I did Black. No, I did I did Black Hole. I went through that pretty quick, which is okay. I didn't get a lot of command points, as many command points as I expected I would get out of that compared to like doing GSF. So then I went back to GSF. But I did not finish my target last week. I do expect to be getting back into it and doing it more this week with PvP and GSF again. And we'll get to in guild news some highlights. So we had a request for people to talk about what as we hit the command each week, what a couple tips are for what people can focus on. So you'll hear about that shortly. One other thing that I did want to call out, that we had a little bit of a fun Mandatory Fun Night tonight, we went and did
Yes,
some
we did.
old school stuff. We went and killed Dreadtooth. We killed the Walker world boss on Yavin. We went and opened up the Rishi Datacrons and got those for a few people, and we got the plus 10 endurance Datacron off of Makeb. That one we have the guild summon to a. I have a
Right.
character that lives there, so that was it's a little bit of a cheat. But yeah, so and we killed a DVL
Oh, that's right. That was
DVL
my
boss,
first one. Yeah.
which was pretty cool too. And all of that was pretty, some pretty cool weird off things. I like when we do a night like that every once in a while. So it was cool.
Yeah, me too.
But with that, I think we can talk about some of the actual news.
Now, an Imperial News Network report.
In the news, we did get a new trailer that came out this week. So as part of the 5.1 patch, they released some new uprisings, and the trailer really focuses on those. It's called Defend the Throne is the name of the trailer. And that I saw a couple questions in a couple places saying, sort of, what's the story behind the uprisings? That's the story. You're sort of defending your alliance, and you're getting a little bit of, bad actors that don't like that you've got this eternal throne thing going on and this alliance that you're sort of cleaning up the galaxy. So they're fighting back against you a little bit in little pockets here and there. So 5 more were added, and there's a trailer to show it off.
I thought the trailer was too long. I didn't watch it all. I only watched 19 seconds of it.
Well, you got to ration it too. I mean, they can be a little
Maybe I'll
overly
finish it
exciting.
tomorrow. Yeah.
You-
I got used to the teasers that were like 2 seconds. And when I got to the 19-second mark, I'm like, it's too long.
Well, you
Turn
have
it off.
that January
Oh, that's right. No binge
no
watching.
binge watching, so you can watch that trailer all at once.
I'll watch the rest of it.
Your New
I'll
Year's
watch part of it
resolution.
tomorrow and the rest of it the next day.
Yeah, so there you go. What else?
So we're having a live stream on Thursday, and this is going to be the one that they've been referring to for a while now, where they talk about ops. So yeah, looking forward to that one. They're going to focus on group content. Eric did post an answer to a question to a person who posted asking, so now that we're going to have ops this year, does that mean no story? And he said, nope, they never said that. It's true that they're focusing on group content and MMO things at this point, but doesn't mean there's no more story upcoming. So
Right, and that's a good point. So I'm looking forward to that dev stream. We will see what they talk about. They're not, they're certainly not guaranteed to be saying that they're going to bring ops, but Eric did drop the word operations in one of the clarification dev posts earlier this week that said we will address that question. So hopefully they'll address it in a way that we like. If not,
Hope
then
so.
we will revolt. Of course we will.
yes.
The quote unquote we will probably revolt regardless, but
We'll just be revolting.
That's what we are revolting. We are perennially revolting. We also saw a couple other notes in the dev tracker. We did have the update 5.1. A couple bugs came out. I would keep an eye on the dev tracker as they go through these things and refine what came out as part of this patch update. There's even more questions about, are some of the things that we're seeing, are they bugs or not? They said, well, the uprisings weren't in the group finder. I think that ended up in the dev tracker, but I think now they already fixed that one, and they are. They said, keep an eye on your command tokens as you get them granted for levels that you've already done. Those command tokens are a legacy currency, but you need to log into each character that you got any command levels on to get the total number of tokens to increment up to what your ultimate total is supposed to be. And then we're seeing some other things which I did not see clarifications on yet, but we will hopefully, like what is the bolster change to Warzones really mean? We're seeing new graphics for the AoE reticles, which they did have a patch note about, but they're also all green now. So if you go into a Warzone, the enemies and the friendly AoEs are all green. which looks a little weird. So we don't know if that's the way it's supposed to be or not. So hopefully we'll see more news on those things. How about guild news, Seema?
So, in guild and community news, we're going to, let's see, first of all, we're going to touch on Conquest. On the Republic side, our Republic Guild, we're invading Hoth, and on the Imperial side, we're invading Balmora. And this week, Conquest is, I forget what it's called, but yes, notable repeatable stuff is flashpoints through the group finder, daily ops through the group finder, repeatable heroic missions on Balmora and Ilum, and as always, GSF and war zones are repeatable. And then some notable one-time stuff you can work on is there's a little bit of crafting, one time. There are specific flashpoints that you can do in any mode, so that includes solo mode, so Black Talon, the Essalus, Battle of Ilum, False Emperor, and I think maybe there's one other that you can do. And there's 2 specific uprisings that you can do in any of the uprising modes, but these are just one-time things, so they're not repeatable. Or you can go and do the veteran versions of specific flashpoints and kill the bonus boss in there. So
Yeah.
if you want to know just get reminders, look at the Conquest tab when you're in the game.
Right. Yeah, this one's called Clash in Hyperspace. So
Thank you.
although
I wanted to
guess
say Clash of the Titans, but I knew that
Clash
wasn't
of
right.
Titans. That would be great. You have to go kill Zeus and Kronos and I'm probably going to do all my conquests this week on GSF. There's a bunch of bonuses for GSF, and it's all repeatable. And every time you get 50 medals, you get a bunch of bonuses. And every time you complete a match, whether you win or lose, you get more if you win. That's probably where I'm going to get most of my points. A lot of the other stuff isn't all that repeatable, it seems. So you'll have to check it out.
So that's how our guild is going to be doing Conquest this month. If you want to join our guild, Max, what should someone do?
Well, Seema, if you do want to join AIE, you can find information on our guild on aie-guild.org, and you can catch any of our officers in game on Jedi Covenant with a /cjoin AIE LFO and ask us for an AIE guild invite. We would love to have you in our guild, so go ahead and
We would.
why don't you go ahead and come in on Saturday and ask for a guild invite.
Yeah.
So that was our little switch, so Seema doesn't have to read that same thing every week. But we got to put it in because that's why we. See, I'm coughing now because this is so hilarious. That's why we do the podcast. So that's one of the reasons we do the podcast. The other reason is our chat room, and I see a ton of people in there tonight. So thanks to all of you guys. We will catch up with you guys after, and thanks for helping us get this stuff ready. We've got a lot of information to go through. Certainly keep us on track and let us know when we're being lying liars who lie and saying things wrong. But I think we can talk about some of the changes to the game, and I thought it was appropriate to do a little throwback to this drop-in, which I haven't played in a while.
Game changer.
Game changer for
Game changer for the industry.
Little bit of game changing going on. There is the whole update 5.1. We're just going to breeze through the patch in general. There's more that we haven't even tried out or dug into, so we'll talk about that. And we'll probably be digging into it more over the course of the next couple weeks. What we're going to focus on for the most part, though, is the gearing update and peeling back the layers on that one a little bit more than everything else. So let's see, Seema, what was sort of the highlights that you saw just out of the game update 5.1, the patch in general, besides the gearing changes?
Well, the biggest thing is, I would say, is the 5 new uprisings.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Each unique stuff in it. I haven't even looked through all of them. I heard some of them in the preview. We've been talking about it, but I know people are sort of down on uprisings not being not counting as group content, but it's group content. Sure, it's only 4-man, but now we have 10 of them in the game. And there's unique stuff in them. Each one of them's got a little bit of a different spin. I think they did a good job adding these things in.
If you read like the comments on Delphi or Reddit or sometimes even the SWTOR forums, people are kind of harping on the reusing of assets. That every game does that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
I mean, like when you have something that's taking place in a certain area, then it looks like that area.
yeah, yeah. So those are in. Those look good. They did this thing with updating the size of the marker on the ground for when an AoE drops to be much more accurate to the size of the actual AoE, which we like. I think I can even do it here on the screen. So, Seema, you were saying that like your Kolto missile looks huge.
Right, which I love because I I had reticle envy for the
It's not the size that
the
counts.
operative scoundrel one, the big, the green pulsing waves that come out. Now my green dust is just as big.
Yeah. So it's that circle is intended to be much more accurate. The thing which it also seemed to change, though, is weird, is that they're green. They're always green. Even the enemies ones are green. So enemy players are green. So you go into a war zone and everybody's is green. So it's just a bunch of big green circles. I think the logo in the middle is different. So on the Imperial side, you do get the Empire, the Imperial symbol in the middle, and you get the Republic one on the Republic side. But the fact that they're all green does make it weird. So I wonder if that's...
That symbol isn't going to be any help at all
No.
because
They're
spell
all
effect is
overlapped
the
and
same. So the spell effect is over it. And then if you have two overlapping, they need to be different colors and hopefully that'll be reset.
right. So that's one of
That
those
aspect
things that
of
we're going to follow up on and try to figure out. What else? They said the bonus. They fixed a bunch of things. Like the bonus wasn't working completely right for Galactic Command on planetary missions. That exploit-ish bug with Lord Anril is fixed in Fractured Uprising. What was the deal with Eternity Vault and Karaga's Palace?
I don't
They
know,
were dropping less command experience.
maybe they were. I didn't notice if they were, but apparently it's fixed now.
Yeah, so maybe they started them as less, but now they said, well, just make them the same, which I don't see why not. So that sounds good to me. So yeah, I'm interested to go through those uprisings. Maybe we'll try to play some this week. Maybe we'll even do a whole show where we dig into each of those uprisings and some of the tips and tricks. But overall, the biggest update was really this Galactic Command gearing updates and changes. So that's what we'll focus on for the most part. So let's start there. So a couple key things that I wanted to talk about as we go through this is we'll talk about how it works, and then we'll talk about some of the key points around why it works this way and how you can think about it, and then any ideas or tips and tricks. And I'm still scratching the surface on it, but I already have some ideas of how I'm going to be going after it, and how I'm going to be using the new system. But I guess let's start at the top. So they added in, and you really got to think of it as additive. They added in some additional ways to get gear on top of the existing way to get gear, which is the command crates, right? So you still get the command crates. The command crates have a chance to drop a piece of gear. You have 3 tiers of command crates. When you get up to 0 to 89, or 1 to 90 is tier 1, 90 to 180 is tier 2, and that at 181 and above, you're getting tier 3 crates. Each of those tiers of crates has a chance to drop a useful piece of gear. One additional point that I wanted to mention, because I've seen some confusion from people, is a lot of people are considering 230 set pieces as the only worthwhile piece of gear. You know, if you think about tier 1, and that's not exactly true. So you will be getting quote unquote useful gear out of almost every crate. You may get repeats. You may need to disassemble stuff because it's a repeat. But 228 gear, if it's an alt that you don't have geared up or a brand new character that you've created, that 228 green gear is good gear. So use it. So don't be afraid. Don't think that the only useful piece of gear is a 230 piece of gear with a set bonus on it. Set bonuses are extra ability, some extra bonus to your capability, but they aren't the be all end all. And we're all getting bolstered. We're all, as you're just gearing up an alt. I know some people that have legacy sets with nice 236 or even 240 gear that they can shift between characters, but then even keep a set of like that 228 green gear around on that character. So if they just want to go run some dailies, they don't need to shift gear around, and it's good gear. So, but that in mind, and that aside, it is painful if you're trying to get a full set of set gear. And you do want the set bonuses eventually, and you do want a full set of 240-ish gear by the time you get into tier 3 and get down the line. So what they said was, let's give the players an opportunity to, one more additional way to be filling in some of those pieces, and some sort of system to be able to even be going after specific pieces. So maybe I got a couple set pieces, but I'm missing, head and legs, and I've got 236 on my boots and 240 on my belt, so I'm fine there. But if I could get head and legs to fill in, that would be great. The way you do that is with this new system in two different ways. You need two sets of things. One is a currency, and one is a token, a unassembled gear piece token, to buy the gear. So if you go on the fleet, there are vendors now on the fleet. And there's tier 1 and tier 2 and tier 3. You need to find the unassembled gear piece, and that you get in PvE off of ops bosses, or in PvP by a secondary way to get it, which we'll talk about in a second. But you get that token, you combine it with command tokens, which you get out of every command crate you open, and you get differing amounts based on the tier of the command crate. You go to the vendor then, and you pay your unassembled gear token plus some of the command tokens, some number of command tokens, 8, 12, 24, and you get that exact piece of gear you were looking for. So that's nice. It's nice to have at least some additional way to get a piece of gear. So just starting with that PvE system, why don't you talk, Seema, about where you get those unassembled gear pieces?
The unassembled gear pieces from PvE drop from bosses and ops. And in each particular operation, the last boss will drop a particular unassembled piece. So we do know what they are because it was published, but off the top of my head, I don't know what they are. But I do remember that, for instance, the Golden Fury, who's the boss in Taboro's Courtyard on Makeb, is belt and bracers, I think, or one of those.
Yep.
Thank you, bracers. So so once you get the unassembled piece, but then I'll also say the other bosses have a chance to drop unassembled pieces as well.
Yes.
So the last boss drops one for sure, and the other bosses have a graduated chance. So earlier bosses in the instance have less of a chance, later bosses have more of a chance, with the final boss having a 100% chance of dropping one.
Right. Which, so it's not perfect. It's certainly not guaranteed, and you're going to be in there with 8 or 16 people and be rolling against those people to get these pieces. But here's the opportunity to get your group together and go after a particular piece because you need that piece. There are a couple charts out there. A couple of the community members have sites and note pages up that tell you where these different pieces drop. Like SWTOR drops implants and earpieces for Tier 1 and Tier 2. Karaga always drops the Tier 1 and Tier 2 relics. If you want boots, you have to go kill Brontes. If you want the helm, you have to kill the Dreadmasters. So different places, opportunity, go kill that with your group. That token will drop, guaranteed, off of the last boss. And you'll be able to, roll on it against your group and go in there and over and over with your group and get it from more
And this
people
is
that need it.
one thing that people were asking for, because the open-ended nature of it without this feature was a little bit soul-crushing.
Right.
But now you can have a goal to go after if you are missing the head. Yeah.
So
which is what you said.
You'll get a couple tokens on average per operation, because you'll have a chance to get a random token from any of the other bosses. And as Seema said, it's graduated. Like the first boss will be 25% chance to get to have a token drop. 50% chance from the next boss, 75% chance from the third boss, and then the last boss is always guaranteed. So you could be getting 2 or 3 tokens out of an operation, or maybe only 1 if you have really bad luck. So get a couple tokens, spread those around. You do have to also think about the tiers, though. So if you're doing story mode operations, you're just going to get Tier 1 tokens. If you're doing hard mode operations, you'll get Tier 2. And if you're doing nightmares, where you get the Tier 3. So if you're trying to get that 242 Tier 3 piece, you do need to be going and killing the end boss in nightmare mode on some of these operations. And that, like for us, that's going to be hard. We weren't killing, Nightmare Revan when it was first time around. I don't know when we're going to be ready to be killing Nightmare Revan this time around. So with that in mind, I was thinking, well, what am I going to use my command tokens for? Do I want to save them up for Tier 3? Well, now, after I thought about it tonight, and after looking at these vendors and checking them out, I realized, no, I might be buying this Tier 2 gear and getting just my set bonus pieces off the Tier 2 vendor, because we can pull off some of the hard modes, because I don't think I'm going to be doing hard mode Revan anytime soon.
It might be a while. Yeah.
So we shall see.
I can see us doing some nightmare bosses eventually, and then there's a chance of those things, a random chance of a piece dropping. So, by then, though, I'm sure we'll have plenty of tokens.
Yeah. And Smoke mentions in the chat room, there is no Nightmare Revan, but so whatever. Nightmare Brontes, Nightmare Dreadmasters, Nightmare Terror from Beyond. Not impossible for us, and it eventually, if we gear up and we work at it. In fact, we've got a new Apples is now taking on Ops leadership, so he may whip us into shape and have us crank it through a Nightmare progression before long. But as it stands right now, I may be sucking up some of these 236 pieces with my command tokens, and it may be a while before I'm getting the 242 pieces.
Yeah, for a while now in LOL, we've been using the "what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do?" style of
progression.
of progression. It's not super effective.
Right.
I don't recommend it. But now we have a raid leader, so Apples will whip us into shape.
One other spin on this whole system that we should talk about is for the PvP community. In PvP, you don't want to have to force PvPers to go in and be killing bosses in PvE instances, and they don't have to. So what they've done for PvP is, as you complete PvP war zones or ranked matches or GSF, you will get unassembled PvP components, which is one additional piece of currency. You gather up a whole set of unassembled PvP tokens, and you can go to a PvP vendor to buy an unassembled gear piece from a PvP vendor. So if you are really good at PvP and you're grinding out a bunch of PvP and ranked, especially ranked, you'll be getting even more and more from the ranked. you could be getting your 242 pieces that way and then not having to kill Nightmare Brontes to get your 242 pieces. I could
I'm
see
glad they
myself
included.
getting some 242 pieces that way.
I'm glad they included GSF in this because I think for a while they were thinking, GSF you don't need gear, so why would we drop these? But it's one of the activities that you want to do, so it
Right.
you should get, I like it.
Now, it's not, to be clear, the only two ways are PvP or GSF or operations. If you don't do either of those two sort of more groupy endgame things, then you're limited to, but still have the opportunity to get your gear from command crates. So that's
Right.
that's where you'll still be going after. You won't
This
be using
this
this
doesn't
additional system in that way.
it doesn't replace anything and it doesn't diminish anything.
Right.
It's like you said, it's additive. It comes on top of
Right.
what was there before.
So I saw a couple people, in a couple of the forum discussions trying to do the math on, how long is it going to take me to get all these unassembled components in PvP and then, buy the gear piece with command tokens, and they were leaving out of the, their whole formula a couple things. One is you're still getting the command crates and opening those command crates and getting the, a chance for a gear drop out of there, for one. And for two, which a lot of people seem to discount and probably shouldn't, is crafting. So crafting is still a significant way in this round of the game and state of the game to be filling in your gear. Yes, you don't get set bonuses off of crafted pieces, but you do get 230, 236, 240 gear, significantly good gear crafted by all of those rare components and stuff you're dropping, and schematics that are dropping all over the place. So if you want your mods and your enhancements, and you only need 6 out of the 7 pieces even for your full set bonus, some of those armorings, that's a place to get them. Like my barrel, I have a 230 barrel that I got crafted. I did not get a 230 main hand. Maybe I did eventually get a 230 main hand also. But I went and bought had somebody craft for me a 230 barrel right away, because I didn't want to wait for that to drop out of a crate, and I could get it crafted. So awesome. Sounds good to me. So keep an eye out for that, filling in with crafting. So crafting, random gear from command crates, and then this new system to fill in extra specific pieces. Now you have a few different ways to go after and get gear. So how does it feel to you, Seema? How are you feeling about where you're at in terms of tiers, and not tears in terms of you crying because you're not kidding, but that too.
I don't know. I was just thinking about that. It's still new enough to me that whenever I get a crate, I enjoy opening it. And I like that I get schematics. I'm starting to see the same schematics, so I'm hoping it's not just a few, schematics that you get over and over and they'll become completely valueless, and I'll go, oh no, another schematic. But and I like looking at the adaptive gear that comes, and I have actually claimed a couple of pieces, which I know you're not supposed to do, because you're supposed to go after the command experience points. But yeah, and I have gotten upgrades in there, and it is, yeah. So I'm enjoying it. I think I know I'm not as far as long. We have people in our guild who are very far along in command ranks, but I've been, I figure we have time, so I'm playing as I play and getting what I get, and I think it's pretty good for me so far.
Yeah, I feel it's still slow for the tiers, not for.
It is slow.
Yeah, whatever. I took off like all of last week, so I've fallen behind now. But I'm only command rank 48. But I was playing a good amount, up until this last week, being out of town. I would have expected by now to at least be into tier 2, and I'm only halfway through tier 1.
Yeah.
That feels slow to me. I have not been using the bonuses, and so that's one additional thing that you can do with command tokens now. So you're getting these command tokens out of every crate that you open, and you got a bunch of them retroactive for all the command ranks that you already have. With those command tokens, you can also buy XP boosts now, which is interesting. So there's a vendor on the fleet by these new command token gear vendors, where you can pay 20 for a tier 1 command boost, which is so it's you have to buy a tier 3 command boost to boost. So that's interesting. There's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 command boosts, and they cost 20 command tokens versus 28 command tokens versus 44 command tokens, respectively. If I'm reading this correctly, the tier 1 command boost only boosts you up to the end of tier 1, and once
Right.
you're command rank 90 and above, you need to be using a tier 2 command boost.
Right, that's how I read it. And I'm pretty sure that's how they mentioned it in the previous live stream too.
Got it.
Or at least a dev tracker.
You are getting more and more command tokens per crate as you get into each of those tiers, though. Also, so you're getting bigger and bigger stacks of tokens per crate.
And this might be a good time too to mention that there's the legacy perk now to increase your command XP, and that's once you buy those, they're active all the time, and they stack with these command boosts.
Yeah. Did you?
I did. I
Did you
bought
buy
all the
it?
ranks of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna buy all of the ranks of that too. Why do I not have very many? I think I just not have bothered to unlock many things in here. So it was a significant number of credits to buy it, from what I understand. Is it a character perk or is it a legacy perk?
No, it's a character perk.
So you have to buy it per character, like say
Yeah.
persuasion, leadership. I'm trying to find it. I think it was a total of, here it is, improved command experience with 5 ranks of it, and I think the total cost, I think Smoke calculated out to something like 3.5 million credits if you're going all the way up to improved rank 5. But
Yeah, it's like
That's
a
okay.
100K and 200K and 300K and then a million and a million five or something like that. It does add up, but
and it's 2%
I
extra
figure-
each time,
yeah,
up to a total of 10. Got it.
10%, yeah. Which doesn't seem like a lot, but it'll add up.
I mean, 48 command ranks, going with, 180 command ranks to get up to tier 3, that will add up. So that and the tokens you either buy off the cartel market or from this command boost vendor stack with the legacy, but not with each other. So the legacy
Right.
plus this 15 will get you a total of 25. I think that, is it 15 also for the cartel market one?
That I don't know.
The cartel market one is 25. It's 25, so that would get you up to 35 total. But yeah, definitely the token that you buy from the vendor does not stack, and they were very clear about that. Does not stack with the cartel market tokens. But still, so between 25 and 35% boost bonus. So I would be another maybe 10 ranks further along than I am right now. I would be up to command rank 60. I'm still not tier 2. If I had been using those boosts all the way along, that still seems slow. And I know one thing for all of us to keep in mind, we can continue to give them feedback that, hey, this is still seeming slow. They are continuing to take a look at it and tweak it. They said they're going to be watching how things go. They said this is their first round of changes on this, and they want to see how this works out for a little bit. But if they need more, I given them the benefit of the doubt that they could continue to tweak this over time and give us more. Otherwise, I'm also not all that. I feel like it's slow, and RNG-ish is always painful for me. I hate RNG, even though I did that whole podcast about why variable reward schedules are good. However, I still like the idea of a long-term progression of some kind within the game, and this is a long-term progression. So there's that. If I was all decked out in 242 gear right now, while I might feel really elite, I I don't think I would have the feel of wanting to play the game in the ways that I do right now, because there's that progression path for me still. So that's something to think about. Yeah, so what do you think about these boosts? Are you going to be... You said you did buy the Legacy boost. I think I'm going to buy that
Right.
too.
I'm not going to buy these boosts because I don't want to spend the tokens, at least until I get a sense for, whether my token supply is outstripping, how I could possibly spend them in other ways.
Yeah. I
Like
think
if
one of
I,
the... Yeah,
yeah, go ahead. No, I was just going to say if I have unassembled pieces to spend them on, but if I've used all my unassembled pieces for tier 1 and I'm still in tier 1, then I might use tokens to buy a tier 1 boost. That would be how I would look at it.
DP Roberts reminds me in the chat room that even if I had full 242 gear, I would probably forget to put it on, which is absolutely true. Thank you. Yes, you're right. So I don't need any gear because I forget to wear it anyway. One thing I was going to say is they did put these command boosts for command tokens in specifically for their intent was this is a way to give you an extra boost on your alts. It does seem a little lightweight for wanting to more quickly gear up alts, and maybe I would want to see that some sort of multiplier if you're already at tier 3 on your main to be able to even go further on your alts. This isn't that much of a way to more quickly gear up alts that I can see, but that was at least a first step in that direction. That was their intent for these. So
Right, because the command boosts themselves that you purchase are bind to legacy.
Right. So that was a step for that. I think that's a little lackluster. That's not going to get you very far in gearing up your alts. So that's something for them, I think, to revisit over time as well.
Yeah, I think I think it's the right idea, but yeah, maybe bigger numbers.
And then another thing that I'm still somewhat confused on, and not confused, but I want to get clear in my mind and get a little clarity on is what drops out of tier 3 crates. I think 240 and 242 is what drops out of tier 3 crates, correct? 240 being non-legendary and just the purple pieces, and 242 being the legendary pieces.
Well, I mean, I've found in the hundreds of tier 3 crates that I've opened that you're correct. I don't know. Actually, I have no idea.
I think this is a point that needs clarification and that people need to think about. I think their intent with putting legendary pieces in the game is that you should not be thinking about these as best in slot and that you need a full set of 242 in every slot on your character because 242 is best in slot. I think what the intent is 240 is best in slot at tier 3. 242 legendary pieces are rare drops that you can get once in a while that give you a little extra bonus and something to work towards over time. I think that's the way we need to be thinking about these. So when people are thinking, I'm not satisfied with anything less than 242 in all of my slots, it's somewhat of an unrealistic expectation. Going out of your way to either get from a random drop or get off of these nightmare bosses, get those 242 pieces to fill in, that's above and beyond, and that's extra stuff. I'm pretty sure that that's their intent of what they meant by putting these sort of legendary items, legendary levels into the game. And that's the way I'm thinking about it. And I think from an expectations perspective, that would keep everybody's expectations a little more in check. Because what do you need? 242 is enough to be doing all of the Nightmare content in the game. Or 240 is enough to be doing all the Nightmare content in the game. You don't need 242 to be able to do the Nightmare content, for one. And for two, because it is so hard to get and so rare to drop, even out of Tier 3 crates, thinking about needing a full set of 242 is just going to drive you nuts. So don't do it.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you, Seema?
It does. It does.
No, I mean, being sincere. Is that the way you're thinking about legendary pieces also, or?
I guess my feeling is that all of this is just going to take so long that we might as well not even focus on whatever's happening in Tier 3.
Probably. Especially for us, because we're not Nightmare Progression. We're not.
Yeah.
We're.
Yeah, and I realize that that's not the same attitude that's shared by many people, but
Right.
that's why I haven't given a lot of thought to how legendaries apply and what's in Tier 3. It's going to be a while before I get there, and I've done enough MMO stuff and other stuff in life to realize that unless you focus on the present and what you're doing, it's just not fun for me.
Right.
So I'm not going to put together a spreadsheet of all the Tier 3 things that I'm lacking and put together a little day planner schedule of what ops I'm going to run on which days in order to get which pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think just for us, that would drive us a little bit nuts. So I
Yeah,
think
but
that's a reasonable way to
that
think about
is
it.
the game for other people. So
Yeah.
that's fine. That's
Right.
fine. I'm just not the person to ask the questions about the content because I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, but then my recommendation to those people that are looking for best in slot is to really think hard about what the new best in slot really is, and if it's 240 versus 242, and being sort of clear about that in your own sort of expectations.
I guess I would have to say too that that is really just 2 item levels is really min-maxing with a capital MIN.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's yeah.
The way I think, I mean, part of what's coloring my view of these pieces is the way sort of like super rare items and named items and actual legendary items work in other games. Like in WoW, if you want to look up what's best in slot, there's legendary items that are best in slot. But you can only even equip only 2 at a maximum, maybe one or 2 legendary items. So
Right.
you worrying about what's best in slot for every slot is completely irrelevant because you couldn't even equip all of it even if you wanted to, even if you had them all. So having the idea of extra rare pieces and a little bonus and something more rare that's hard to get dropping over time, it being like an interesting side thing. So even if you're playing this, say there's never a new tier of gear ever again, 2 years from now you open up another command crate and get another legendary item, that being an extra mechanic that's around and sort of providing that bit of value even in the future. I think there's some value to that kind of idea being in the game, whether it's perfectly implemented or whether this was the right way for them to roll that out, and whether they explained that well enough, that's open for discussion, certainly.
And I agree with you too that you said earlier, even after all I said, I think it probably is a little too slow. They probably do need to do something to pick up the pace a little bit.
Right. That I do think also. So every chance I get, which isn't necessarily very often,
Yeah,
I
right.
will, as our very angry Canadian friend said earlier tonight, I may write a strongly worded letter.
That's right.
So
That's how we know he was angry.
yes, that's how we know he was steaming mad. That would be my feedback if I ever get asked is it seem fast or slow? Right now it still seems too slow. I should be tier 2 at least by now. But other than that, I'm going to continue to be grinding out some ranks and having fun doing it. I'm looking forward to those uprisings in particular.
Me too.
And with that, I think we can wrap up for tonight. So, thanks to all of you for joining us tonight on newoverlords.com, iTunes, YouTube, or live on Twitch. We will stream again next Tuesday night on twitch.tv/newoverlords around 10:30 p.m. Central. Please follow us on Twitter at MaxTheGray and at AIESEMA. And come find us on Jedi Covenant and ask us for an AIE Guild invite. We would love to have you. And we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.